Hello everybody, I am Kia Sangria. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you are new here, please make sure you hit the subscribe button for more cosplay sewing content. And if you are joining me again after watching part 1, thank you so much for coming back. We are continuing to work on Simplicity 8434, which is this Harley Quinn suit pattern. I am very excited to be making this pattern. Even though I've made many versions of Harley Quinn, this is my very first time making this suit in her classic colors. So we left part 1 with finishing the bottom and the top, so now I am just working on attaching the top and bottom pieces together. I posted previews about this costume across my other social media channels, and a couple of you commented on how my seams were so clean. I literally only get them this clean because I pin a lot. I use a ton of pins, I use sewing clips, anything that I can to make sure that my seams are matching up so that I get a really clean look after the project is completed. So if you're following along at home, please use as many pins as you like. It's totally okay, and your project will be all the more better for it. So now that I have everything pinned in place, I'm just going to go ahead with my serger and start attaching those pieces together. And I do have the blade on my serger because I just want the seams to be as neat as possible, so it is cutting while I'm sewing. With the pieces attached, it's now time to install the zipper. I'm using a very long zipper, but if you also have a very long zipper, it's very easy to shorten it. So what I'm going to do is just mark out where I want my zipper to start and where I want it to end. That way I'll know how to cut my zipper and what length it needs to be. So here's where I'm going to end up cutting it. Before I cut it, I'm going to use some stitching just to create a stopper, and then I'll cut off the excess. Once that's done, I'm going to use some interfacing. So I'm going to cut a piece of interfacing the length of my zipper. This just ensures that when I'm sewing the zipper to the spandex, everything lays flat. That way nothing's moving out of place. I actually picked up this trick after trying it a few times just because I sucked at sewing zippers on spandex, and literally this is the only way that I can do it without it coming out like in a bubbly, buckled mess. So I'm just going to cut a piece the same length using my rotary cutter and a cutting board. And then I'm going to iron the interfacing to both openings of the zipper. So just on the edge there. And then to finish the seam, I'm just going to do some serging just to keep everything nice and neat. So now I'm just going to start attaching the zipper with some pins. I do this step multiple times until I'm happy with the result. It's so much easier to just pin a couple of times than to stitch something in place and then have to undo it. So just take your time with pinning it and make sure that in this case your lines are matching up seamlessly. Because if they don't, it's going to show in the final costume and you're not going to be happy about it. So before I stitch down, I always use some thread to tack down the most important parts, so specifically where the seams are going to meet. That way they're on the same level, one's not like higher than the other. This is an extra step, but I promise you it's worth the time spent. And then as you can see, my seams are lined up perfectly. So with that, I'm going to take off my walking foot and install a zipper foot. That way I can properly get the zipper sewn to my project. And then I'm just going to secure that with some stitching, with a front and back stitch at the beginning and the end. And to finish off this step, I'm going to do some top stitching off camera. And with that, my zipper is finished. Next it's time to work on the sleeve. So go ahead and pin your sleeves into the armholes using as many pins as you feel that you need. And take your time with this to make sure that you're matching the seams. At this step, you can use 1 to 2 rows of zigzag stitching to keep this in place. I use 2 off camera just because the arms are a very high stressed area. But you can do whichever one works for you. So with that, the bodysuit is finished. Now we're just going to work on finishing. So for the collar band, I put a bit of interfacing on it. This just ensures that it doesn't buckle when sewing, and I honestly think that it just really keeps everything neat and makes it feel really professional. But it is optional to interface the collar band. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the collar band to the top of the bodysuit, making sure to catch in the edges where our zipper is. And just take your time pinning this to ensure that everything is centered and that no side is longer than the other. Turning off my blade, I'm going to use my serger to do this step just to make sure that the stitching is as secure as it can be. Please make sure to remove your pins as you're serging. Once upon a time, I actually had my blade break and fly past my face, so please be careful. And with that, your collar band is done. This is an optional step, but I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of top stitching just so that it looks a little bit more professional. And off camera, I've attached a small closure to the neck band. And so this is what the back of the costume will look like. All zipped up and secured with a closure at the top. You can use any closure you'd like for this step. So for the collar band, I'm going to attach the bands, for the armbands, I'm just going to attach the cuffs to the bottom of each sleeve. And then I'll secure that in place with some stitching. Take your time removing pins as you go. And repeat this step for both sides. The final step for completing the bodysuit is to just go ahead and hem both of the pant legs, and then to attach some elastic to keep the pants in place when you're wearing it. So you'll cut a piece of elastic the length of your ankle to the bottom of your heel, and you'll secure this in place with some stitching. With this step completed, your bodysuit will essentially be complete. The next thing that we'll work on is Harley's accessories, which I will make another video for, and that'll be the completion of this project. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to see more of my projects, please be sure to follow me on my other social channels below, and come back here to see the rest of Harley's accessories and the completion of this costume. But here's how it looks so far. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to join me in my next video.